meditation is a way to be able to check in with yourself, to give yourself a break and downtime. And so I share my story with you because I think it highlights a lot of misconceptions, including I had them myself with meditation. And so before I introduce the 6 different techniques that you can use, I just want to review the 5 major, what I feel are misconceptions when it comes to meditation. And so the first one is that the thoughts do not necessarily stop. I think when people start a meditation practice or start to meditate, they think that your thoughts will magically stop. They won't. They won't, you guys. They will continue. We just need to observe them and move on. Just wave at them, acknowledge them, file them in the back of your brain, but then move on. So they won't stop. And we don't want them to stop. We don't want our mind to stop, but we want to slow it down and give it break periods. So that's the first misconception. The second one is that while meditation can also help you to feel relaxed afterwards, so maybe after you finish a session, you may feel relaxed, don't judge the success of your practice based on whether that happens or not. There are a lot of cool behind the scenes things that are going on that are so beneficial for your body that are going to happen over the long term. Like, look at what I was saying. I started to notice some of those thought patterns, but I didn't see it right away. But I stuck with the practice, and eventually then the payout came later on. So don't expect that just because you didn't feel relaxed after the meditation session that there aren't good things that are happening there. The third misconception is that you need to practice for like 20 minutes a day. Okay, I am here to tell you that you will get benefits from meditation, even if it's just a few minutes a day, guys. You can sneak it in here and there. And so my hope is that when we go through some of these techniques, you'll see how easy it is. So don't get hung up on, oh, well, I don't have 20 minutes right now. Does Cheryl know midterms are right around the corner? My schedule is so booked. I don't have time for this. These simple things you can do a few minutes here and there will definitely add up and be beneficial for you. All right, the fourth thing is don't get hung up on what type of meditation technique to do. Just find something that speaks to you. We are all unique. We all have different tendencies and we all have different interests in things. And so try not to get hung up on that. Just find something that you find that's comfortable and that you can actually do on a regular basis. And so hopefully some of the techniques we'll talk about, maybe they'll ring true for you. And then the last thing is to keep going. I think, again, people may get discouraged with if I don't feel relaxed after the session or the thoughts didn't stop and so it's not helping. Stick with it. Stick with it. Over the long term, you will start to notice some different benefits with it. Okay? So those are the key misconceptions. So I wanted to make sure that we kind of were on the same page with what we're talking about when it comes to meditation. So it's really a focused sort of concentration. All right. So today I'm going to introduce 6 different techniques that you can implement right away. And I chose these techniques because you don't need anything, guys. You don't need any resources. You don't even need your phone with any apps or anything like that. I purposely chose these and categorized them so that you can just on the fly, in the moment, pick whatever you need based on your mood and based on how you're feeling, okay? So that's all you need to do is just be able to check in with yourself and be like, okay, what kind of mind am I dealing with? Where are my thoughts? How am I feeling? Okay. And so to kind of guide us through this, I have put together a handout. Let me share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
You should be able to share now.
Okay. All right, there we go. Okay. Oops. Okay, can you guys see that okay? Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. All right, so I've broken down how your mood or your thoughts or whatever into three major categories. Now, there are a ton of other categories out there, but I picked these three because I think they are they are kind of the most common that we may experience. And so when you check in with yourself, you can look at, okay, am I a mover? Am I a thinker, or are my thoughts and feelings more laid back? And so we'll kind of go through these really quick, each one individually. So what type of mind are you working with is the first question over on the left-hand side. So what I like to call the movers, that's where you maybe have a restless mind. It just doesn't turn off. And the thoughts keep coming and coming like waves, just kind of overwhelming you. And when you try to work on a project, you just kind of lack focus. And this can be something too that you might even experience before a test. You know, it's like you're thinking about all the information that you learned and crammed and thought about, and then it just kind of becomes overwhelming where then when the test comes down, you get the test, you can't really think, you can't really focus. And so for the mover, then some of the feelings that they might have would be maybe they feel a little nervous, maybe there's a little anxiety or anxiousness. Very difficult to make choices or decisions. You just can't focus enough to even think through which one's going to be the best option for you in whatever scenario you're faced with. And so for someone who has the racing, you know, moving, the mover mind, what their mind needs is to be grounded. It needs to be relaxed and it needs peace. Okay, so when this sort of mind, when you try to meditate with it, stillness practices don't work. They don't work because the mover wants to move. Your thoughts keep going, right? And if we do a meditation practice where we are putting you in a box or we're saying just sit there and don't move, sometimes that can create more stress because we're going against the natural tendencies of what you're doing. And so they often are challenged with meditation because they need to fidget, they need to move around. So what we'll talk about in a few minutes are techniques that you can do with this sort of mind that works with that flow. So what we really need is a structured rhythmic pattern. So we have that movement component, but we're not crazy moving, okay? So that's the mover mind. So when we talk about that, that's what we're talking about. Then the middle column, I like to call the thinker mind. So that's where maybe we're ultra focused, we're hyper productive. Every minute of the day is accounted for, and you've got schedules and lists, and you're gonna follow through and check off everything you can. Some feelings that might be associated with that, maybe impatience, maybe judgmental towards yourself or others, or I didn't put it up here, is that maybe it's exhaustion. You know, you're doing everything and you're handling what appears to be handling everything well, but you're just exhausted. The mind just doesn't have any downtime. And so what this mind needs is it needs to be pampered. It needs to be cooled off. It needs to be soothed. It needs to be softened. There needs to be not as much structure associated with that. And so when you're working with this sort of mind, sometimes meditation, the challenge that can present is that meditation may be viewed as a waste of time. And so it's like, I've got so many things that I need to do and that I can't devote any time towards this. And so that's what we're kind of challenged with. And so ironically though, meditation for the thinking mind is exactly what's needed, because you'll see down at the bottom of the handout where it says benefits of the practice, it actually is increased productivity. You know, how many times have you kind of read, you know, or looked at your notes for a test or read an assignment and you had to keep reading the material over and over and over again, and then somebody were to ask, hey, what was that about? And you wouldn't be able to answer. So even though you're actually going through the motions and you're actually studying, how much of it, how productive really are you? So maybe if you take a few minutes and do some of these things, maybe that can increase your productivity. Okay, the last category of what kind of mind are you working with, or your mood or your feelings, is maybe it's sluggish, maybe it's foggy or stuck, you know, or stubborn, not willing to kind of move on. And so another way of thinking about this too is that maybe we're holding on to things too that we need to release. And so what this mind needs is it needs to be energized, right? Because it's stuck and it's not moving. But we also need to provide it with an outlet or a release to maybe get rid of some of that heaviness that's kind of in the system. And so the biggest challenge with doing meditation with this sort of mind is that you tend to fall asleep. You tend to think of meditation as nap time, and it happens. But if we truly want to do a meditation practice, and we often find that our mind is in this category, we really need to add some more. We need to energize the practice or use different techniques that will actually help with that. Okay, so a couple things is that I don't want you to think that you have to pick like one of these categories. And in fact, we were talking even before the presentation today that you can have these different minds throughout the day. So don't think that, oh, I'm a mover mind, that I'm only going to do these meditations that Cheryl had talked about. Well, you know, in the morning, maybe I have a racing mind, and maybe in the afternoon, I'm more laid back. And so don't kind of pigeonhole yourself into a category. So kind of check in with your mood. Am I a little nervous? Am I judgmental? Am I stuck? Am I stubborn? And then match it up, and then you can go from there. Okay. All right, then just a few housekeeping things too before we get into the demonstrations of the techniques, that if at any point, you know, and you're welcome to follow along with me as I'm demonstrating and as we're doing it, but if at any point that you feel, you know, odd or lightheaded or, you know, have a headache or anything like that, or feel anything that you feel is wrong, just stop and go back to your regular breathing pattern. Sometimes when we start looking at different breathing techniques, we tend to force it, you know, and when you force it, sometimes your nervous system just isn't having it. It's not happy with it. And so you can actually stimulate the nervous system instead of relaxing it. And that may be happening. So if you do notice any of that, maybe be a little bit more mindful to see or check in, am I forcing my breath or am I kind of naturally letting these things happen? Okay. All right, so we are able to move on. So our first technique is for that racing, kind of restless mind. And so that is the alternating nostril breathing. And so you guys, it's exactly what it sounds like. You are going to breathe through alternately through each nostril, through the right and then through the left. Before I demonstrate that though, there is actually some very cool physiological reasons why this is an awesome balancing meditation technique for you. So throughout the day, we don't even notice it, that we cycle, our breath cycles predominantly one side through one of our nostrils. So sometimes during the day, we may be breathing more out of the right side of the nostril or the right nostril, and other times we may be breathing more out of the left side. And so it's very subtle. I mean, even if you wanted to put your hand underneath your nose right now and you just breathe out, you can kind of feel maybe which nostril may be more dominant. Now, the reason why I say that is because the right side of if you're breathing predominantly through the right side nostril, that's very heating for the system. So that's going to energize and fire things up. And if you're predominantly noticing that you're breathing through the left nostril, that's very cooling for the system. And that's going to help to calm and relax. And so by doing alternating nostril breathing, you are actually balancing the system. And you guys, you can even take it one step further, and from a physiological standpoint, is that the left side brain controls everything that happens on the right side of the body. Okay, so if you notice you're predominantly breathing through the right nostril, that means your left side brain may be very active at that moment. And the left side brain is very analytical, very thinking, you know, so you can actually even assess like, okay, which nostril is more dominant, and then match what activity you want to do. So maybe you have math homework or something like that you want to do. You can check in and say, oh, okay, my right nostril seems to be more dominant. Now may be a good time. Now, I don't want you to obsess about that and be like, well, or tell your teachers I couldn't do it because my one nostril is more dominant than the other. But it's just kind of one of those interesting things, again, to pick up on yourself. You know, like you can assess yourself very easily with some of these subtle things that maybe you never even knew about. And so the opposite then is if you're dominant through the left side nostril, that's controlled by the right brain. And the right brain's more creative, more artsy. You know, so if you need to brainstorm or you need to do more things, then you can actually see, okay, wow, I am more dominant on the left-hand side, and then kind of go from there. So again, sorry, I couldn't help myself. I love those little physiological things that actually, so you know what you're doing when you're doing this, okay? All right, so alternating nostril breathing. So there is a hand technique that you're gonna use. And so you're gonna use your thumb and you're gonna use your ring finger. And so you can hold it like this. If this is a hard position for you to hold because it's very easy, you can toggle back and forth this way, you can use your thumb and index finger. There's really no right or wrong way of doing it, but you're gonna use your thumb and your ring finger. And so what you're gonna do is occlude the right side nostril with your thumb. You also tip to, you might wanna blow your nose or clean your nose before you do this. If you do have a deviated septum or one of your nostrils is obstructed, you may want to avoid doing this or not doing it as forcefully or doing it in the presence of a practitioner. So if you have any of those things right now, please don't do it. And if you want to do it along with me, you can. And so you take your thumb and you occlude the right nostril, and then you inhale through the left. And then you take that ring finger and you push on the left nostril, and then you breathe through the, exhale through the right. And then you inhale through the right. And then you clog the right nostril and then release the left and then exhale through the left. So that's one cycle. And so you can continue doing that. Few words of caution. When you start doing it, you kind of get excited and you may go too fast. And again, that's where you may have a lightheadedness feeling or a headache sort of feeling. And so that's where you want to pull back a little bit then. Okay, so I'll just do it one more time. So again, your hand position, occlude the right nostril, inhale through the left, then plug the left nostril, out through the right, then in through the right, clog the right nostril, and then out through the left. Okay? And then maybe you can do that a couple times and then go back to your normal breathing pattern, and then you can kind of keep doing that. So benefits. Benefits, it's very, very grounding for the nervous system. Again, from a temperature point of view, and it's mirroring the right and the left side of your brain. And so by equally representing both sides, it can create some calmness and grounding to the system. So test anxiety. You know, you can do a few rounds of this before you even have your test, or when you're in your car or in your dorm room before you go for your test. Doing a few rounds of these can be very, very helpful. Okay. All right, so that's alternating nostril breathing. And you can also too, if you want to try and stimulate different parts of the brain too, you can actually just do breathing through the left side. And then you can also just do breathing through the right side. So, but again, don't force the issue, and just kind of do it slow and at your own pace. Okay, so that's alternating nostril breathing. The next one is mantra meditation. Now, mantra meditation, or what a mantra is either a word or a phrase or something that has meaning to you. Some people chant, some people sing, you know, in yoga classes, sometimes they om. You know, whatever actually is working for you is what you can pick. And there's 3 different ways that you can do a mantra meditation. So the first way is that you can just do it quietly. And so you can just say the mantra over and over in your head. And so I'll give you some examples of some mantras. Some ones that I like right now that I'm using is inhale peace, exhale release. So inhale peace, exhale release. And so for me, I've actually matched it up with my breathing, but totally not necessary, because you can also use peace, calm, and happiness. Peace, calm, and happiness. So you can just kind of keep repeating these things over and over. It could be, I can, I will. I can, I will. It could be, I got this. I got this. I got this. One step at a time. One step at a time. So hopefully you can kind of get the idea. Whatever word or whatever phrase has meaning towards you. And so the first way is you just keep repeating it over and over in your head. Then the second way is that you actually, vocalize it. You say it out loud, whatever it is that your mantra is. And then the third way is you can either say it out loud or to yourself, but you have a grounding object that you're using. And so let me show you. I collect rocks. So when I go on vacation, I collect any sort of rock that I feel is interesting to me. And so I pick it for maybe its weight or its texture or whatever the case is. And so for me, when I do a mantra meditation, I may actually stroke whatever object it is. Maybe it's like inhale peace, and then I'll bring my thumb back and then exhale release. Inhale peace, exhale release. So it's kind of the idea of a fidget spinner, but sometimes fidget spinners are too spastic, so we just need something. The weight of the rock is very grounding for me. And so that works, or if you have some other object that you want to hold and that you actually can kind of touch, and you can coordinate it with your words or phrases or whatever you like. There are also things that are mala beads. So I don't know if you guys have heard of mala beads. So usually there's 108 beads here. They're in sets of 27. So, oops. You can kind of see, like, mine's white, but then every so often there's a black mala bead. And so the idea is that you hold this between your thumb and your ring finger. And then as you're saying the mantra, you kind of slide down to the next one. Well, this is kind of hard to show. And so it could be like inhale peace, exhale release. Inhale peace, exhale release. So you're kind of holding it in a comfortable way, and you're just feeling each bead as you go. And then they are in a different size. So then once you get back to the big mala bead that you're done. And all of them are different. Same sort of concept with people who pray with a rosary, the same sort of thing, same concept. So mantra meditations, 3 ways, either out loud, quietly, or you can use some sort of grounding object. And so all of these techniques are creating a structured rhythmic pattern for that restless mind. So again, we're going to work with the movement, but we're going to work with the movement in a structured way. And so ultimately then what the benefit of this practice will do for this sort of mind will help you to increase your focus. Okay? All right. So now we're moving on to the thinking mind. And so for the thinking mind, they get double breath meditation. Both of the techniques I'm going to tell you are using your breath. And you know why? Because the breath is the quickest way that we can influence our nervous system. It is the quickest way that we can switch it from that fight or flight to that rest, repair, restore parasympathetic nervous system. And so for this sort of mind that we want to pamper, we want to make sure that we're cooling the engines, we're cooling the system. And so the first one is 3-part breathing technique. And so with this, it's a variation of deep breathing. And so I'm sure that you guys have all heard about deep breathing, and they say belly breathing or breathe from your diaphragm. And so your breath isn't actually coming from your belly, but it's coming from the diaphragm is where you're kind of keying into where the breath's coming from. And so by doing that, by breathing from the belly, the breath's getting all the way down through the lungs to the base of the lungs. So you're filling the lung completely. Oftentimes when we only breathe from the upper chest, we aren't filling the lungs completely, not to their full potential. And so if we can actually properly breathe, that actually helps to cool and soften the nervous system. And so for this one, we're just going to we're going to break the breathing into 3 parts. So the first part, let me kind of move my screen, is that you can, and I'll break it down for you. So you can put your hands on your belly, and you can just sit there, and actually with your shoulders nice and relaxed, you take an inhale, deep breath in. And what will happen is your belly will actually expand when you actually are using the diaphragm or taking that deep breath. And so your hand on your belly is just to feel the movement of when you take the deep breath in, that your belly moves. And so it's really just helping the mind to focus on where the breath is. And the hands will tell you whether you're actually in your belly or not with the breathing. So that's the first part. Then the second part of the 3-part breathing is putting your hands on your ribs and actually breathing into the rib cage area. And you can actually feel that. And then the last point is actually breathing just under the collarbone. So we have our collarbone right here. So you can take your hand and place it just underneath that, and the other hand you can put on your neck base and just wrap it around your shoulder. And so when you take a breath in, you want to take that breath in until you feel that area move. Now guys, all of this is subtle. So it's going to take some practice to key your brain into thinking, oh, okay, I'm breathing through my belly, I'm breathing through my ribs, I'm breathing through my collarbones. Now, when you actually do this technique after you've practiced some, you actually link them all together in one. So I would sit quietly, I would inhale and then exhale a cleansing breath. And then on the inhale, I would inhale through my belly, inhale through my ribs, and then inhale through the collarbones. Now again, I'm not really breathing through my collarbones. I'm just activating the upper portions of the lungs. And then you exhale. And then you can either go back to regular breathing, or you can do another round of it. Inhale through the belly, inhale through the ribs, inhale through the collarbones, and then out. And you can kind of tell a rhythm over time will occur. And you could even on the exhale, this would be more of an advanced concept, but on the exhale, exhale through the space underneath the collarbones, exhale through the ribs, exhale through the belly, and then you start it back up again. Okay, so that's the 3-part breathing. And so I broke it down because you might want to practice it that way initially. Laying on the ground might be actually a better way of actually keying into these different spots. So that might be helpful for you to do. And then also, guys, this is a great way to diffuse strong emotions. So if you're really angry, really irritated, one, because you're oxygenating the whole system, and so you're cooling it off and kind of giving it the oxygen it needs. So 3-part breathing is very good for diffusing strong emotions that you're having. Okay, so let's move on to bee's breath. Now this one, and again, you guys, if you're doing Google searches on these, there is a whole area surrounding breathing exercises called pranayama. And you can Google that, and bee's breath does have a different sort of name. It's called Brahmari. So if you are Googling any of these afterwards, know that it may have another name, but it's the same thing. So bee's breath is where we're actually going to be humming like a bee, and it actually creates a soothing sort of vibration with the system. And so with this, you take your hands and then you put your thumb you're going to close your ear canals. So don't stick your thumb in your ear. You're just going to push that little piece of skin that's above the ear canal. It's called your tragus. So you push that in. So you're closing your ears off, like I can't hear you. And then you have your hands like this, and you rotate them forward. Might want to take your glasses off. So you rotate them forward, you place your index fingers just above your eyebrows, just relax them there. Then the two fingers go over your eyes, and then you just rest gently over your closed eyes, and then you just relax the pinky fingers down on your cheeks. And so you take an inhale in, and then on the exhale, you actually make an audible humming sound. So you actually are humming, like make a sound with it. It's not quiet. And what should happen is you probably will feel the vibrations in your head. So those vibrations are actually very soothing for the nervous system. And so here, what we're doing is we're essentially closing off the ears, right? We're closing down the senses. We're covering the eyes, and then the vibrations are soothing, because the overthinking mind doesn't need more stimuli. It just needs pampering, it needs breath, and it needs to kind of quiet out the environment. And so this bee's breath is a great way of doing that. This one is also really good if you can't sleep at night, or you are having, you were able to fall asleep, but then you woke up and you couldn't fall back asleep. This one is a really good one to kind of soothe the nervous system back into sleeping. All right, so with the thinking mind, the two techniques that we did were primarily breath work. And again, if the three-part breathing is a little too difficult to kind of understand the concept, or you're not there yet, just do the belly breathing. That's going to be extremely helpful for you. And again, that's going to be, it's going to actually increase productivity over the long time. So, you know, you put the time in, you'll have a payout that'll be associated with that. So, okay, and our last category is the laid back or sluggish or stuck mind. So if that's something that you feel like you're challenged with, we want to add movement. So movement is going to actually help to stimulate, it's going to energize, but it's also going to add a release for the system. So there are 3 different types of movement meditations that we'll talk about. So the first one that would be helpful, and again, we want to do movements that are not overwhelming. We're not going to actually be doing, you know, full-on cardio, because again, we still want to make sure that we're stimulating the nervous system, but not overly stimulating the nervous system. So something as simple as, you can put your hands up, you know, next to your, just put them up in the air like this. And then as you inhale in, you raise your arms up. And as you exhale, you bring them down. So inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And so again, you may feel yourself start to speed up a little bit. Just make sure that you aren't getting lightheaded, and that you're just gradually doing this. And you can even pull down a little bit on the inhale and then exhale, or on the exhale, you know, or inhale. So just by adding those movements, you're oxygenating the body, so you're energizing it. It's a release, and it's stimulating, okay? Another way of doing this is you can have your head facing forward, and then just turning your head simply to the left, and then you inhale as you turn to the left, and then you exhale as you come back to center. So you can look forward and then inhale, turn to the left, and then exhale, come back to center. Inhale, turn to the right, exhale, come back to center. So again, don't whip your head around or go really fast, and just be mindful of the pace that you're doing it. So adding that coordinated movement with the breath can be very, very beneficial for this sort of mind or this sort of mood. Okay, so then we're going to go to another movement meditation, which is called a body scan meditation. And so with body scan meditation, it's again, literally what you're going to do. You're going to scan your body. You can either start from your head and work down towards your toes, or you start at your toes and you can work up towards your head. And what you're going to do is you're going to stop along the way at various points of your body. And what you're going to do is just observe. Just observe what you feel at those different body places that you stop. And you want to key in with your senses. So we want to, oftentimes when we're stuck or we have this laid back mind, we're kind of tuned out. We're tuned out to ourselves, and we may be tuned out to the environment around us. And so what we want to do is tune in with our senses. So in those body parts, what do you feel? You can even look at the body part if you want, you can see it. But how does it feel? Those sort of things where you're using your senses to tap into that, okay? Now, this is something that you can Google. There are a ton of guided meditations out there. Some of them can be 1, 2, 10, 20 minutes, body scans, but you can simply do this yourself. And so what I'll do is I have a little bit of a script here that I'm going to show you, just one you can do really quick. And so this one will start with the toes and then work up towards the head. So when you're doing this sort of meditation, you want to sit in a comfortable position. You can even be laying down for this one, but if you're in the laid back mind sort of thing, I think I want you more upright in a comfortable, kind of energized position, but not too structured or strict. Okay, so with the body scan meditation, what you can do is take some deep cleansing breaths, and then you get in the interest of time, I'm just kind of going to walk you through this very quickly, but I would definitely do this much slower. But you would just take some cleansing breaths, and then you would bring your focus towards your legs or your feet. And so there you might want to feel like, how do your feet feel against the ground? How do they feel in your shoes right now? Are they heavy? Are your toes curled in? Are you grabbing somewhere? And again, you don't want to judge any of this. You just want to observe just what's going on in that area. And then you can move up to your back and your stomach and spend a few areas there. Maybe feel, how does your back feel against whatever chair you're in, or whatever support, or however you're sitting. And then you can wrap around and kind of look at the belly and feel the belly. Are you holding tension there? Is it uncomfortable? Is it making noises? Did you feed it last? Those sort of things. But again, don't judge. You're just observing. It's kind of like a check-in, okay? Then you can move up to the neck and throat. And you can see, is it, are you gripping? Are you holding tension? Then as it starts to move up to your face, what is your tongue doing? Is it plastered against the roof of your mouth? What are your teeth doing? Are they clenched together? How does your jaw feel? What about your eyes? Are they constantly shifting and looking around? Are they closed? Are they twitching? Those sort of things. So this idea of movement. So the first one we did when we were moving our arms, we were coordinating movement with breath, right? Now with body scan meditation, we're coordinating movement with our mind. And so again, this mindset needs movement. And so the body scan meditation, that's the purpose. With your mind, you're checking into these different body spaces and moving on. Okay, and that'll key into where are some places maybe you might need to release. Maybe you may find you need to spend a little bit more time observing a certain area. Every one of us has different tendencies, and this is a way that, again, you can check in with yourself. This is self-care. Body scan meditation is great for that. All right, now we'll progress into progressive muscle relaxation. So that's a separate technique. And so with this one, like the body scan meditation, we're moving the mind, but now we've added the body component to it. And so what you're going to do, again, it can start from your toes and go up to your head, or it can go from your head down to your toes. You're going to sequentially contract and then release certain body parts. And so what you'll do again is just observe and feel. What does it feel like when you're contracting? And again, what does it feel like when you're releasing in those areas? Okay. And so again, you can Google a lot of these, and they could 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 minute sessions you can do. You can do it before bed. You can do it when you wake up in the morning, like that sort of thing. But again, I'll just give you an idea. So this again is very quick. So for this one, we'll start from the head and we'll move down. And so this one's kind of fun. So if you guys want to do it with me, go ahead, and it might be kind of nice to see everybody doing this. So, so the first one with the forehead and the face, what I want you to do is just pretend it's shortly after midterms and you are so surprised that you got A's on all of your papers and on all your projects, okay? And so now what you do is I want you to give me your biggest smile and raise your eyebrows up as high as you can and hold it. Like they did the selfie, it's like he got A's or she got A's, you know, and so hold it, and then release, okay? And so key into, you know, like when you're actually doing it, you know, how crazy it is, we have a gazillion muscles in our face. And so by signaling to them and smiling and raising your eyeballs up, we are activating them and then releasing, okay? All right, then we can move down into the shoulder and the neck. And then now pretend somebody keeps asking you a question and you don't know the answer. You totally don't know the answer, but they keep asking you this question. So finally you're like, I don't know. So we're gonna do the I don't know sort of thing. So you're gonna raise your shoulders up to your ears and at the same time, bring your neck down like a turtle. Like, leave me alone, I don't know. So you've got the I got A's. Now we're gonna do the leave me alone and then relax. And so again, I know I'm joking around here a little bit, but you would key into feeling it, holding it for about 5 seconds, and then releasing. Don't overly grip though. Don't do an intense sort of grip to it. And then we can move to our hands and arms. And so you can think you've got lemons and you really want to make lemonade. And so you've got 2 lemons, 1 in each hand. And then what you want to do is squeeze them. So you can hold them like this and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. So you can try and get all that lemon juice out and then drop the lemons. And then you can kind of feel the release of the tension that goes with that. All right, now the last area we'll stop with this one is the legs and feet. And so now pretend that you're standing in a mud puddle. And so what I want you to do is curl your toes as tight as you can and then push your feet down into the mud puddle. Push them down. You can even feel your quads activate if you're sitting up in a chair. And then release. And as you release, think about that mud oozing between your toes. And then all the stress and tension kind of dissipates. And then you can take a few cleansing breaths. And then you can open your eyes if your eyes were closed. And that kind of is a very, very quick progressive muscle relaxation sequence that you can go through. So again, you can pick what stops along the way. For me, it was just very easy to just be like, okay, smile, you know, raise your shoulders up, you got the lemons, and then you have the mud, you know? So you don't need to be guided to do this. I mean, you can, but the idea of me sharing all of these techniques was so that you can, in the moment, do these depending on what your mood is. You don't need your phone. You don't need anything with you. So you'll see, you know, that there are a lot of meditation techniques we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about guided meditation. We didn't talk about directly mindfulness meditation. But a lot of these techniques that I demonstrated are forms of these. I just tried to make it very simple for you to be able to access some of these techniques and match it up with your mood and then just start using them right away, okay? So hopefully you can maybe you learned a few different techniques here that you can use and just match it up with your mood. And so that, again, just kind of keep in mind those misconceptions with meditation is that these few minutes that you're doing here are definitely beneficial. So the idea is putting the mind to bed. We need downtime for it. That's where the self-care comes into being. And so again, you may notice that your thoughts are going all over the place, but you know what? I'm not adding on to it. At least I'm not outside doing other sort of things that are adding more onto my brain. So even though the mind is continuing to go when I meditate, that actually is an improvement than when I'm in real life, right? So keep with the program. Find something that works for you. And again, some of these techniques, there's overlap between the different mindsets. So you may find, wow, that alternating nostril breathing really works when I'm exhausted and I'm overthinking, sort of thing. And so go ahead and do it. There's no right or wrong way with this. And that brings me to my last point, guys, is that the title of this presentation was The Art of Meditation, Match Your Technique with Your Mood. And I think that that's beautiful because art and meditation they're very similar. So for instance, there's no right or wrong way to do art, right? You do it, you know, and the same thing with meditation. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's try it, see what happens for you, and it's a check-in basis for yourself nonetheless. So maybe you might get some benefit of relaxing from it. You know, maybe you don't get anything, but know that you are doing some good things for your system, you know, so you can rest assured with that. So there's no right or wrong way of doing it. The second thing is there's no right way. There's no specific way of doing it, you know, so don't get hung up on a technique. You know, there might be latest research out that this sort of meditation technique works really well for doing these other sort of things. That's great. If you like that meditation technique, do it. If you like to paint versus, you know, knit or other sort of things or work with clay, then do it. It doesn't matter. So don't get hung up on that. And then the last thing is that they both, art and meditation, are ways of expressing yourself. They're ways of expressing and actually looking deeper to see, what do I have going on inside of me? What sort of feelings do I have? Even simply just taking a minute to check, where is my mind? Am I a mover? Am I a thinker? Am I laid back? That's awesome. Like, even if that's just your practice, that you can start to key into, okay, this is what's happening, and then add on some of these different meditation techniques or other sort of health-related techniques. That's self-care, guys. And so there is an art to it. And so art and meditation are definitely paired together. All right. So I definitely want to thank everybody for being here today. Hopefully you got some things out of the presentation, and you can start to integrate these in right away so that you can then smile and get A's on all of your midterm exams and papers and projects and things. So before I open it up to questions, I do have if you wouldn't mind, it's voluntary, you don't have to do it, but I do have a survey if you wouldn't mind completing. If you have a phone, you can take a picture of the QR code. If not, you can kind of type in the SurveyMonkey link there, or I can maybe even add that to the chats. So, and then again, my name is Cheryl, my contact information's here, and my new business that I am starting out as Healthy Input. So I will open that up to, I'm going to stop talking. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be open to those right now.
Everyone has the ability to unmute too. So if you don't want to type your question in the chat, you want to unmute yourself and ask the question that way, that's fine.
Did I just stop the screen? Hold on.
Yes.
Let me start the screen again.
Will that first slide, Cheryl, with the chart?
Yeah.
Is it okay if we share that with anybody who wants it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, anything that helps you guys reference this information, absolutely. And if you want me to go over another technique, I know we might be a little short on time, I'm happy to do that. Or if you want to reach out to me, email me if you want more information about something.
And this recording will be available to you guys on our website probably by the end of the week. So if you want to refer back to it even, that's possible. But like Cheryl said, you can also reach out to her. So
thank you so much, Cheryl. We really appreciate it.
You are very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.